And that's when I realized that there's two ways to see the world. Some people see the thing that they want, and some people see the thing that prevents them from getting the thing that they want. I could only see the bagels. He could only see the line. And so,
there is a moment in every person's life when everything looks fine on the outside, but something feels off on the inside. You wake up, follow your routine, do what's expected of you. From the outside, it all makes sense. But internally, there's a quiet question that refuses to disappear. Why am I doing this? And more importantly, does it even matter? According to Simon Sinek, this question is not a weakness. It is not confusion. It is the beginning of something far more important, because hidden inside that question is the search for purpose. And as simple as that word sounds, purpose is not just a motivational idea. It is a psychological force, a structure that shapes decisions, behavior, and even identity itself. But here is where things begin to shift. Most people don't actually understand what purpose is. They think it's a goal, a job, a passion. But according to Sinek, that is where almost everyone goes wrong. And that misunderstanding leads to a life that feels productive but empty. So what exactly is purpose? And why do some people seem driven, fulfilled, and resilient, while others feel lost even when they succeed? To answer that, we need to step into one of the most influential ideas Sinek ever introduced, a concept that quietly explains why some lives feel aligned and others feel disconnected. The illusion of success without purpose. From a very early age, we are taught to chase visible markers of success: grades, money, status, recognition. And over time, these markers become substitutes for meaning. We begin to believe that if we achieve enough, we will eventually feel complete. But something strange happens. There are people who reach the top of their fields, who build wealth, gain influence, and achieve everything they were told to pursue. And yet they feel an internal emptiness they cannot explain. Sinek observed this pattern repeatedly, not just in individuals, but in organizations, leaders, and entire cultures. Success, when disconnected from purpose, becomes fragile. It requires constant validation, constant progress, constant external proof. And the moment that progress slows down, the sense of meaning collapses with it.
Understand what they mean and why they have the opinion that they have. You must understand from where they are speaking, why they have the opinion they have, not just what they are saying. And at the end, you will get your turn. It sounds easy, it's not. Practice being the last to speak. That's what Nelson Mandela did.
But this raises a deeper question. If success is not enough, then what is missing? Maybe the problem was never that you weren't successful enough. Maybe the problem is that success was never meant to replace purpose. You were chasing proof when what you actually needed was direction. And this is where Sinek introduces a shift so simple, yet so profound, that once you see it, it becomes impossible to ignore. The golden circle, starting with why. At the center of Sinek's philosophy is a model known as the golden circle. It consists of 3 layers: what, how, why. Most people and most organizations operate from the outside in. They know what they do. Some understand how they do it, but very few are clear about why they do it. And yet, it is the why that determines everything. The why is not about money or profit. Those are results. The why is the deeper reason something exists: a belief, a cause, a driving force that goes beyond immediate gain. And here is where things become interesting. Sinek argues that people don't connect with what you do. They don't even connect with how you do it. They connect with why you do it. This is not just philosophy. It is rooted in human psychology. The part of the brain that processes why is also responsible for emotion, trust, and decision-making. So when someone operates from purpose, they are not just communicating information. They are creating alignment. But if this is true, then why do so many people struggle to find their why? The silence around purpose. Purpose is not something most people are taught to explore. We are trained to follow paths, to meet expectations, to optimize outcomes. But rarely are we asked to stop and examine the deeper question: what do I actually believe? This creates a strange dynamic. People become highly skilled at functioning, but disconnected from meaning. They know how to perform, but not why they perform. And over time, this disconnect begins to show. It appears as burnout without clear reason, success without satisfaction, progress without direction. But here is where the tension deepens. Because purpose is not something you can simply decide overnight. It does not appear as a clear answer. In fact, it often begins as uncertainty, a feeling that something is missing, before you can even define what that something is. And this is where most people make a critical mistake. They try to force purpose into something concrete. Too quickly, they look for a single answer, a fixed identity. But according to Sinek, purpose is not a destination, it is a process. And understanding that process changes everything. The discovery of why. Finding your purpose is not about inventing something new. It is about uncovering something that has always been there. Patterns in your behavior, moments that felt meaningful, experiences that shaped your perspective. Your why is hidden in your story. But here's the part most people overlook. Your purpose is not about you. It is about the impact you have on others. Sinek emphasizes that true purpose is outward-facing. It answers a different kind of question. What difference do I make? This shift is subtle, but powerful. Because when purpose becomes about contribution rather than achievement, motivation changes. It becomes more stable, more resilient. And this is where a deeper transformation begins. But there is a problem. Even when people begin to sense their purpose, they often struggle to live it. And the reason for that is not lack of clarity, it is fear. The resistance to living with purpose. Living with purpose sounds inspiring, but in practice, it is uncomfortable. Because it requires alignment, and alignment requires change. You may need to leave environments that don't reflect your values, say no to opportunities that don't align, accept uncertainty in exchange for meaning, and this creates a conflict. The external world rewards stability, predictability, measurable outcomes, but purpose often leads in the opposite direction. It points toward growth, risk, and sometimes temporary confusion. This is why many people remain in situations that feel safe, but empty, because the cost of change feels greater than the discomfort of staying. But Sinek offers a different perspective. He suggests that the real risk is not change. It is living without purpose for too long. Because over time, that absence creates something deeper than discomfort. It creates disconnection. And once that disconnection becomes normalized, it becomes much harder to break. So the question is not just, how do you find your purpose? But also, how do you sustain it in a world that often pulls you away from it? Purpose as a daily practice. Purpose is not something you discover once and keep forever. It is something you practice. Every decision you make either aligns with your purpose or moves you away from it. And this is where Sinek's idea becomes practical. He does not suggest that you need to radically change your life overnight. Instead, he emphasizes consistency. Small decisions, repeated over time, choosing actions that reflect your values, even when they are not the easiest option. Because purpose is not maintained through intensity, it is maintained through alignment. And here's the deeper insight. When your actions align with your purpose, you don't need constant motivation. The action itself becomes meaningful. But when there is misalignment, even simple tasks feel exhausting. Imagine this. Two people sit in the same office, doing almost the same job. One stays late, not because they have to, but because the work feels like it matters. The other counts every minute until the day is over. Same hours, same tasks, completely different energy. The difference is not their workload, it's whether their work is connected to a deeper why. The difference is not effort, it is connection. And this leads to one final realization, one that changes how we understand success entirely. The redefinition of success. Success, in the traditional sense, is external. It is measured, compared, displayed. But purpose-based success is different. It is internal. It is not about reaching a final point, but about moving in the right direction. This does not mean goals disappear. It means they are redefined. They become expressions of purpose rather than substitutes for it. And when that shift happens, something unexpected occurs. Failure loses its power. Because failure, when connected to purpose, is no longer a sign of inadequacy. It becomes part of the process, a step in alignment, rather than a deviation from it. This is why people with a strong sense of purpose often appear more resilient, not because they avoid failure, but because they interpret it differently. But there is still one final challenge. Even when you understand purpose, even when you begin to live it, there is still the question of the world around you. The final tension, purpose in a misaligned world. We live in a world that rewards speed, output, and visibility. It will gladly celebrate you for a life that looks impressive, even if it feels empty to you. And in such an environment, purpose can feel invisible. It may not be immediately rewarded. It may not be recognized. And at times, it may even be questioned. This creates a quiet tension. So the real tension is simple. Do you live for what can be measured or for what actually matters to you? Do you optimize for results or for meaning? There is no simple answer. But Sinek offers a principle. People who stay connected to their why create a different kind of impact. Not always immediate, not always obvious, but deeper. Because purpose is not just about personal fulfillment, it is about influence. When you operate from purpose, you give others permission to do the same. And that effect extends far beyond individual success. Closing reflection. So the question is not whether you have a purpose. You do. The question is whether you are paying attention to it. Because it rarely announces itself loudly. It appears in patterns, in moments, in quiet realizations. And if ignored, it does not disappear. It waits. But if explored, it becomes a compass. Not one that removes uncertainty, but one that gives direction within it. If you want to go deeper into this and learn how to bring more purpose into your work, your relationships, and your decisions, stay with this channel.